Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Your Business in HD. I am Jen Dice and your host, and I am here to talk to you guys today about this topic that's been on my brain of shifting from external strategy to internal guidance. So many of you guys that are listening or tuning in, we are entrepreneurs. We are in the business world. We are growing businesses, and when we enter the online space, it is all about strategy. It is all about strategy. It is all about following the framework, getting your offer created, your marketing strategy, your offer strategy, your systems, processes, everything behind the scenes. It is all strategy. And all of that is great. We need that external structure. We need that support. But that, I truly believe, will only get you so far, because there is internal pieces that happen and have to shift and have to function and have to grow within every single one of us. For that progress, for that growth to be made. So just as an example, and just to share like a little story with you guys about my own experience just in this online space from my perspective, before the business I have now, I had a Pinterest marketing company. I had run that company for 2 years, and I had grown it to a point that it was booked out. I had clients, I had the income. I replaced the salary of the job I was currently working at, more than replaced it. I did what I set out to do following the strategy. But I was at this point where I was maxed out, I was burned out, and I was facing that fork in the road of what to do next. The next step, the next logical step that everybody around me was telling me to do was work on your SOPs, hire a subcontractor, grow that thing into an agency, and step away from it. And yes, that's the next logical step, but I truly, in my heart and in my soul, knew that that was not the next step for me. So then I made shifts and pivots in my business to step into the coach role, to step into that guidance role, to help other people with their marketing, to help other entrepreneurs not just create and step into their marketing and build and grow their businesses, but also to pull in this element of human design. So I had this new shift and this pivot that I was blending together. But just because you think you have it all together doesn't necessarily, like on the external picture that things are together, doesn't necessarily mean that everything on the inside is happening at the same speed, if that makes sense. So just a little story of, for me, what happened, as I made this pivot and as I stepped into this business. Number one, it felt like I was starting all over again, because I had hit my stride with my Pinterest company. I had my confidence in there, I had my clients, I knew what I was doing. And when you shift and you pivot, it sets you in this whole other place where you start to feel a little less confident than what you were before, and you start to look more outside yourself for the answers. And so even though I was stepping into this role using human design in the marketing strategy, I was starting to take on clients, I still ended up hitting this, I don't want to say like a blocker. I still ended up with my own set of challenges to make that pivot. Because when people say, oh, I used to do this and now I did this, that pivot, like that's a messy middle that not a whole lot of people will open up about or talk about. And for me, with what happened with that pivot, was what I had in my head as a plan was, I'm going to keep working with clients on one business on this side and grow this other business over here. Logically, it made sense because, from an income standpoint, it's continuing to keep that revenue coming in. But I will tell you, what you think might end up happening doesn't always happen. So what ended up happening for me, I was working on releasing and launching through, it was the end of spring last year. I want to say it was in May. I was in the middle of a launch. And right before that launch, or just before that, I had gotten to a point where I was feeling like I was going to start to gain momentum with this new business. And simultaneously, clients were not renewing on the Pinterest side. And for me, I was okay with letting go. But the letting go of this business and then the start of a new business, that was where that messy middle happens. And for me, it ended up looking like that lesson release and letting go of that company and those last clients and finishing things out, and then launching a new, I think at that time I was launching a course last year and launching into that. And what ended up happening was I ended up in the middle of a launch in the ER with some health problems that I did not foresee happening. Like you can't predict that, right? And so that's why I'm saying the strategy and what you think, that external strategy, is only going to get you so far, because with that in the middle of the launch, yes, I launched, yes, I sold the course, but I lost that momentum in the middle of it. And my brain had to shift. So now this business off to the side was I was letting that go and releasing that. But at the same time, I was also internally having to do some work and shifting and letting go inside, because I was facing some things that I had no control over. And so there's no strategy in the world that can prepare you for anything that could come up, whether it's a health issue or it's something with your kids or your family, things like that. They happen. The strategy cannot prepare you for that. And so for me, it was just facing this idea of I have no control over this situation. The only thing that I can control is me and how I approach things going forward. So the plans I had to launch this momentum, this course, to book clients through the summer, it looked like I can only do so much as I go into the summer. I can take care of my kids. I have to take care of the clients that I have for this course. I have to deliver, it's just my energy and the capacity just kind of shrunk. And I had to let go of the expectations that I had of the outcomes and what was going to happen in the coming months, because I had to focus my energy on taking care of myself and taking care of my kids. So when you can't lean externally on the strategy or somebody else or a guidance, and you have no control over a situation, it comes down to how you do the inner work and you approach that situation. That's what I'm talking about today. That's that sort of a situation, especially, and I'm not saying it's going to be all that, like where you're losing one business and then you're stepping into that type of a situation. For me, that was the universe telling me you need to slow down and you need to take a breath. And through this process, you're going to also do some healing in this process. And that's ultimately what also ended up coming from that as well. And even though I knew human design and I was stepping into my human design, it doesn't mean that I'm 100% perfect with staying in full alignment. None of us are, but it's using some of these things that come up as like tools to help us pull back and really take that step back and go internally to see what we can do, trusting ourselves, trusting that inner guidance for that next steps. So when it comes to building your business and growing your business and shifting into new offers, new clients, new marketing strategies, new ways of growth, externally, there are strategies everywhere. There are programs, there are courses, there are coaches, all over the place. And yes, you do need that. You have to find what works for you and what resonates with you. And that has to be like the bones and the framework of your business. But the heart and soul of who you are as the entrepreneur, that is the internal piece that drives the ship forward. So that is kind of what I want to talk to you about a little bit today, is shifting from that external to that internal. Because no matter where you're at in business, whether you are working on your first 6 figures or whether you are working on your next 6 million, I don't care who you are. We all are human, and we all have these, we all hit these roadblocks. We all have those doubts. We all have those questions. We all look externally to other people, to, whatever's on in our social media feed. We all look externally to find some of these answers to figure out what our next steps are. But when you take a minute and kind of take a step back and you really bring it back into looking within yourself for that internal guidance, that's where that shift happens. So you do have the strategy and the framework and all the things around you for support, but when it comes to making decisions on what the next right step is for you, is determining going inside and looking within and trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, and trusting your inner guidance to bring you that clarity for what your next best steps are, even if it's not like the next logical thing. So for me, looking back, I'm almost a year out from that experience, and looking back on how that pivot went, because that was one hell of a fucking pivot, I gotta say, that I did not anticipate. And looking back on that now, I know that the way it happened set me up to become who I am today, to be here right now talking to you guys today, to be here right now sharing with you guys today some of these messages, to be holding space for the clients that I have today. Like, the things you go through in your business as you grow, as you work on marketing your business, growing your business, and then the inner work that you do along the way. It doesn't all have to be like human design. Human design is kind of the lens that I look through for most things. Not everything, but for a lot of things, that is my starting point. But whatever you pull in, that's going to help bring you that pause and take that step back to like tune out the noise that everybody is trying to tell you, this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do that. When you go internally with whatever tools that you have to do that, you're going to get more clarity on what the next right steps are for you. And so I wanted just to leave you guys with a couple of questions to ask yourself. And this, like, if you know your human design, totally fine. You can bring this back to your human design filter or whatever. But if you know your human design, this is going to tie back to like looking at your inner authority, knowing your human design type, knowing your strategy, knowing your authority. And those key pieces are, even though it's like basic level human design, it's not super deep in your chart. I tell my clients all the time, like, this is the muscle we're flexing when we're looking at using human design as a tool for your own self-growth to make your decisions. Because when I'm working with my clients, I got offer strategy, I got marketing strategy, I got all the strategy, like information, knowledge that I could give you, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to give you the questions to ask yourself so you can figure out what that next offer looks like, whether or not to take that client, whether or not to book that event that whatever you're looking at. It's just, I'm going to ask you the questions that tell you what you need to ask yourself so you can make that decision. I'm not going to give you that strategy. So when you're looking inward, I'm getting off topic a little bit, or getting on a tangent. Questions to ask yourself. Ask yourself right now, like, where are you already seeing some blocks? We all have blocks. And again, this goes back to, I don't care who you are. I don't care how many years you've been in business. I don't care where you're at in business. You are a human being. We are all humans. We all hit blocks at every level of business. We all are going to encounter blocks, obstacles, challenges. We all have them. So it's identifying right now, like, where are you seeing some of that come up for you right now? And it could be it could be issues with just, maybe I'm not sure, like maybe you are booked out and you're not sure what the next right step is for growing and scaling your business. Maybe you're trying to figure out how to refine and do less so that you have more time to do more of the things you love to do, but you're not sure how to do that. Where are those blocks coming up? We all, like I said, we all have them, whether they're in business or outside of business. Just ask yourself where they are coming up, where are you seeing them? The second question I want you to ask yourself is, where am I spending too much time seeking outside of myself for answers or suppressing those blocks? Because sometimes we have blocks and then we just flat out freaking ignore them and we just want to keep going on with life. And so that's another really good question to kind of consider, is where am I spending too much time seeking externally? So other people's opinions, social media, Googling, YouTubing, like even just listening to podcasts, books. Where am I seeking externally? That is a good thing. You still want to do that. But is this something that you've been turning over and over in your mind for a while and you still feel like you're not sure what the next right step is, or it still feels like a block, or it's a block that keeps coming up more? Like if it just keeps resurfacing, like that's a sign that it's something to like look at, get curious about. And then just seeing where you're looking externally for answers, or where you're suppressing it, where you're just like choosing not to deal with it in the moment right now, or you just feel like you'll come back to it later, and then it resurfaces again, and then so it's like this cycle. So just again, awareness of where are you seeking the answers outside of yourself, and then the third thing to answer or ask yourself is, how can I pause, slow down, and look inside myself for my next steps? So this is, again, if you're using human design, you're looking at your design specifically. You're looking at how your inner guidance works based on your chart, based on, and this is very unique to you, how you're designed to make those decisions and trusting that inner authority with your human design. Other tools also you can pull in. Like, are you taking time to meditate? Are you taking time to journal? Are you taking time to just shut all the shit noise out that is just like, that is social media, that is the TV, that is the noise from the world around you? Are you taking time to block some of that out and just quiet your mind? Are you taking time to ground yourself? These are ways where you are pausing, where you are giving yourself a minute, where you are allowing yourself to speak to yourself. You're just, because most of us spend a lot of times, most of the day with, we're on Zoom calls, we're on social media, we're listening to podcasts, we have other people, our family members, but where are you creating that space where it is just you, it's quiet, it's silent? So just a couple things to ask yourself as you're going forward, because externally, the things that happen outside, the strategies, the guidance, the coaches, the programs, the courses, they all help us grow, because those people do pour into us and allow us to grow. But the question is, are you leaning too heavily on the things that are external and not enough on making those internal shifts where you're trusting your own inner guidance? So, just some questions, just some thoughts to leave you guys with, because that no matter where you're at in business, there's a strategy for everything. There's a system for everything, but strategies, systems, processes, they're only going to get you so far, because at some point doing the work on an internal level is what you need to unlock and get through that block, that obstacle to that next level. Like I said, whether you're working on still making your first 6 figures in business, or whether you're making your next million in business, I don't care where you are. Those blocks happen to all of us, because at the end of the day, set the business aside, set the money aside. We are all human, and these blocks come up for all of us. So it's a question of how can you tune out externally the input and really dive into internally and figure out what your next best step is. So I hope that was helpful for you guys today. Thank you for joining me for this message. It's been on my heart. It's been on my mind to share with you guys. So I am excited to hear what you guys think. But as always, thank you again so much for tuning in to this episode of Your Business in HD. And I can't wait to talk to you guys again. All right. Bye, everyone.